Hello my quilting friends! My name is Leah Day and welcome to this free motion quilting tutorial. Today I am stitching Star Flower Stipple, a really beautiful design. So it starts out with some stippling and then you're going to go into a straight line, travel back along that about halfway down and then branch out to create kind of a plus sign or cross shape. Now we're going to stitch on the diagonal on both directions. This is the basis for Star Flower, one of my favorite motifs. So after you get all of your straight lines stitched, then you're going to bounce around them with some petal shapes. So come up to a point and then back down, and you're going to bounce into that center section. You can see it just kind of builds up thread a little bit through there. And then your beginning point, you're going to have a little petal come out that direction too. Once that is complete, you're going to wiggle off with more stippling. Stippling is your connecting design. It's going to connect all your little star flowers together. And it also helps you to fill in the space really nicely because you can wiggle in. You can see all of these little weird areas, these nooks and crannies around these flowers. I can fill that in with that gentle meandering design. Okay, I think I want a star flower right here. So let's go through the steps really carefully this time. Nice long straight line. Probably want to make that longer than you think you need to because that's going to get you some distance away from your stippling like that. Okay, so now I travel stitch back and I'm going to stitch to one side and the other side, travel stitching back into the center. Try not to build up thread there in the center. It can get a little bit on the bulky side and it could cause you to have a thread break if you build it up too much. Now I stitch straight lines to both diagonals. And that is the basis. It's kind of like a star shape, you know, or a snowflake. So that could be its own design, honestly. But to turn it into a star flower, I'm going to bounce around and form these petal shapes. So I'm kind of arcing out, forming a point, coming all the way back to the center, bouncing out, forming another petal. It's really nice, bouncy movement. It flows really nicely. All right, and so it's up to you if you want to have it look like that and not have another petal, but I really like the idea of having one last petal and just have that come down looking like that. That looks good. Okay, now the other nice thing about having stippling being your connecting design is that you can come out of any of these petals to continue the design. I'm going to come out between these two, right, like that. And then I'm just going to continue, go back, right back to wiggly stippling. And that is going to fill in this little area, and then I'll be able to stitch a few more star flowers in this quilt block. Okay, so now that you know the basic rules for Star Flower Stipple, let's switch to the long arm so you can see how this is going to work in a real quilt. So I am on my Grace Cunique 15R, and I'm giving Star Flower Stipple a try. So you can see I already did a little bit of stippling and stitch my straight lines, and now I'm trying to go around with my careful petal shapes. Ran up against my echo ditching, so I had to do a little bit of travel stitching there, but I think that looks pretty good. Of course, you kind of want to make sure that your straight lines are roughly even in length, so that way you don't end up with a very, you know, large petals on one side and short petals on the other side. Yeah. So I'm going to try and be a little bit more consistent with my next one. This is a very easy design, I can say that, because the shapes connect together with stippling, and stippling feels very easy on my long arm. Yeah, that feels really smooth. All right, so now I'm going to start out with my petals, and again I made the same mistake. I butted it up just a little bit too close to the edge of my quilting space. So try not to do that. I think this is definitely going to work as a great all-over fill design. I have this little narrow space in this border and I'm trying to stick it in here, and I really think that this design wants to get bigger. You know, make those star flowers several inches wide, and I think that's going to be a great use of the design. Overall, it's very easy, very bouncy. You know, I feel like I'm flowing very evenly through it, and I think that this would be a great skill builder for travel stitching on my long arm. I know that my centers are not all that neat and tidy right now, but the more I stitch them, I think the better I get. So let's wiggle over here and let's do a really big one. And when you go right through the middle, something like this, nice long straight line, then a nice long straight line through the middle. That looks good. Then diagonals. Yeah, you can see just how much, like you could probably, on a long arm, you could probably do a 6-inch wide star flower with no problem. And you know, as far as the travel stitching goes, it's not perfect, but I think that's okay. You know, it ends up looking a little bit on the messy side. You know, if you're consistently inconsistent, then it's consistent. You know, if they're all a little bit messy, then it's okay. And then you can also, the star flower design itself, I went around it and bounced around it a second time. So definitely try that. That can also change up the design. It makes it a little bit bigger, makes that star stand out that much more. And it also is going to cover more of your quilting space with every pass. So you're going to do not only the straight lines and also the petals, but you're also going to expand those petals a little bit. Yeah, I think that has some definite potential. Now I'm going to wiggle out through here and go back to my wiggly stippling. And let's try a really small one. I've done fairly big ones so far. And let me try a small one. I'd like to do a good bit of little stippling here between the shapes, just so that way there's a little bit of distance. And then now I'm going to try a little baby star flower right here. Just see how that looks. I think that's pretty easy. Yeah, I'm managing to travel stitch just a little bit cleaner when it's small. But you know, on a big quilt, I feel like that would really get lost. You know, it's kind of it's definitely a decorative, cute little design. Gonna be great as an all-over fill. I'm not so sure it's gonna be a great choice as a border design, simply because, you know, it's hard to keep it small. It really wants to get big. And I think just honor that and see what happens. Let your star flowers start out with a nice star shape that's, you know, several inches long on those lines. Go back through the middle, break it down, see how big it can get. It's definitely got a quick and easy flow to it. So that's it for Star Flower Stipple. I think this is a terrific design to quilt really big over your quilts. If you have a long arm, you can also give it a try on a home machine. Just remember that it's harder to make big sweeping movements when you're on a home machine because you're pushing the quilt rather than rolling the machine over a frame. But there's no right or wrong way to quilt it, so enjoy using the machine that you have for quilting. If you'd like to learn more about my home sewing machine, you can check it out at leahday.com/sew20. And if you'd like to check out this long arm, you can find it at leahday.com/qzone. And of course, if you'd like to find more free motion quilting videos, check all of them out. A complete list of the entire gallery at leahday.com/FMQ. Until next time, let's go quilt.